Okay, let's slowly try to do this. I'm having troubles recording this. But for starters, this all takes place when Adam was discovered. Since the beginning, Ryan saw, or one of the crewmates or divers, discovered an odd-looking slug right off a right off the rim of a very large pit. The pit seemed bottomless, and they threw a light down, but they didn't bother to report it. So they took the slug in, and that's when Adam was discovered. So they attempted a dive deeper down to find more, but there was fatalities. The water pressure was extremely deadly. It was an obstacle for rapture. So, after a year or so, they've built the most advanced suit they could. Built-in heating to keep the diver warm. Then they built in a heat resistance so they could walk in case they've encountered any volcanic areas. And then they've equipped the biggest oxygen tank they could buy, with some exception of the material to make sure it didn't crush under the deadly water pressure. Lastly, they had to build in sorry, this is a lot for me to speak. A built-in drill, as all Big Daddies have. This started sparking the idea of a Big Daddy in their mind, but this was the very first one. Or at least the design that starts sparking ideas for the Big Daddies. Anyways, let's say this. My OC was a wreck. After the death of his 3 daughters, his little girls, his wife decided to leave him. And basically, his world just came crumbling down on him. 3 years later, he quit his job as a diver. Basically, he was the best diver there was. He was also a marine biologist, or at least he had very keen knowledge of the sea life. He never got too deep into it in history, but he knows sort of an instinct, a predatory instinct. Sorry if I'm stuttering. I'm trying not to stutter. Anyways, they called him up when he was. A buddy told about his expertise and his physical attributes. Since the suit requires a physical user, someone who can operate it. And in Rapture, there wasn't many people with qualifications for it, especially in the physical degree, because trust me, you need to be pretty strong just to move a finger in that machine. It's basically like a juggernaut suit inside a titanium suit of armor built like a submarine. This thing was literally meant for exploration. It did have some pros to it. It also had enhanced strength in case they came across alien debris that needed to be moved, along with backup systems or something like that. This suit was actually removable. It wasn't permanent like the original Big Daddies. Like the Big Daddies, they cannot take off their suits, like Delta or Pouncers. This suit was removable. Or at least at the time it was. Anyways, they managed to get me on board. After they went for a first test run with a pilot, they attached a wrench and then send me down. Slowly as I got down, the line snapped and I plummeted into the depths. Under the fear of never emerging, no expertise, you had to find a way, walk your way up if you're diving in a suit. The suit was extremely heavy. So, that's where our story begins. And now I'm going to tell you the story, or at least the first episode, where you guys were, well, basically, where my OC meets the first little sister, which is the octopus girl. Right on the left of the screen, you see her down here just drooling at the delicious slug. That's another thing. These little girls are basically atom energy. Basically, they gave the power. Each one is an element. Like, you know how you could set fire with the snap of a finger? That's the pyro. The shark over here is pyro. I still need a name for her. So if you have any names, please comment down below. As for the girl right here, you're about to learn what's the octopus girl you're about to learn. And the other one is easy. She's Cryo. She's big, and I call her Ellie. As in Ellie the eel. And she's just a cuddle bug. She's just a sensitive eel. But anyways, these three girls are basically mutation effects from eating these atom slugs. One was a shark, one's an octopus, and one's an eel. After eating like tons of these slugs down below, they started mutating into these forms you see now. But anyways, let's begin with episode 1, Ground Zero, the bottomest of bottom. I awaken. My head is pounding. I wonder how long have I been out. I feel like I haven't moved in eons. I reactivate the lights, and I was covered in moss, rust. And I was wondering, how many years have I been out? I thought maybe 3 days or so. But why do I feel so hungry? Like, how long? But when I awoke and when I turned on the lights, what I seen was unbelievable. The whole area lit up with colorful lights. I seen things I never thought anybody's ever seen before. Glowing fish with patterns on them, glowing coral, glowing plants. It's like a glowing paradise. I started to get up, and my joints were just so rusty. I really wonder, how long have I been out? But I didn't focus on that. I realized I had to get up. Who knows how much oxygen I must have gone through. My gauge was acting up. I started to wander around. I was just so mind blown by all the colors. I saw a fish with rainbow colors. It was just amazing. I'm the first person to be this far down in the ocean to see all this. Just be in the dark. I wonder, does anyone else know this exists? I feel like I made a huge discovery. But I started to shake it off and focus when something odd happened. All the fish just started spazzing out and scram. And then that also worried me. But that was actually what really worried me. The fish ran. They didn't seem bothered me when I got up. That means something big is coming. A predator. It's all things natural. When something bigger approaches, they run or hide. That's sort of a natural, like a shark. When sharks run or at least go away from like a food source, when something much larger than them approaches, I started to worry and I started to pick up the pace. Well, I kept my eyes peeled because I don't know what could be down here. But along my way, I felt like something was watching me. I turned to my left and then my right, and I saw something scurry off into the dark. My curiosity got the better of me, and I go after it. It seemed like an octopus, but it was too large to be an octopus, or at least one that could be this far down. I started running after it, which was sort of at a mile pace considering how fast I can move underwater, which was surprising me. I could barely move on land in this thing. As I ran after it, it swam into a cave, leaving an ink debris. But something was odd about the ink. I kept feeling static electricity on my hair stand above, like if there was an electrical current in the water. I went through the ink, getting covered in black, or at least part of it, stained the suit, but I didn't care. As I slowly gained, I did not know what to say, what I believed, that my eyes were playing tricks on me. There was it looked like an octopus, but its upper body was like a child, a little girl. Her hair was tentacle-like and she glowed blue, like a light blue. She looked scared and terrified of me, or something else. She huddled against the wall and her tentacles were blocking her face, or at least something was off. She had a wound on one of her tentacles. I slowly approach her. She starts to freak out and change, sporadically whip at me with one of her tentacles, which surprisingly starts sparking up in electricity. What the hell? Her body was swarmed with electricity around it. One which worried me, but I slowly approached her. She started to cry in fear, but then I pet her gently. She looked up at me in surprise. I couldn't look away from her. Her eyes were so big and blue. I forgot how big eyes can be. They're like the sea. She started to mumble words, but I slowly made out some of it. IRONGIANT. And that really hit me in the head. Iron Giant. And yes, that's a reference to a very old movie. But I also understand because I look like an Iron Giant in this. I gently grabbed her wounded tentacle. She flinched. She looked at me with fear again. I gently pull out of my bag a waterproof bandage. But it was no longer sticky. It looked like it was expired. So then I see a perfect substitute. Kelp. I grabbed the kelp and wrapped it around her tentacle. She grunted and squealed a little bit because it hurts. I won't blame her. She has an open wound. But it seems regenerate capabilities aren't as fast for her. As y'all know, octopus can regenerate limbs, I think. But anyways, she looked at it and she didn't feel the pain anymore. She looked up at me with sparkles in her eyes. But then she turned back to fear. She started to shake. And I don't know why. She gripped around, her tentacles gripped around my arm. And I could tell she was terrified. Surprisingly, I could feel the strength of her tentacles squeezing tightly around it. But not tight enough to damage it. But I could definitely feel her grip. I started to feel something wrong. I looked behind me. And then I noticed it. A large, something very, very big. And it does not, from perspective. I turn off my lights and curl up with her as it actually swam over us. I was scared out of my mind. It was unbelievable. It was a mosasaur, or some kind of, I think that's what they're called. And to think they are still alive, they got extinct so long ago. But I guess that means you can survive in the water if you have the right food source. And judging by how far I'm down, who knows how long this thing's been down here. It was blue, or a blackish blue. Couldn't we make it out, but I could tell it was massive. I started to grab her and run. And all of a sudden, it turned around and started swimming towards us at speeds. I wasn't gonna make it. There was nothing to hide behind. The girl started to glow, afraid. I then managed to start up my drill and carefully threw the girl aside and carefully looked at him. I don't know what I'm doing, but I felt the urge to protect her. Looking at that little girl, my heart started beating fast. Like I saw my daughter die. I wouldn't let her die. I didn't want the girl to die. Rage consumed me. I felt so angry. I charged directly at the beast. As it opened its mouth wide, it grabs me. I was struggling just to keep it from closing its mouth. I could feel the pressure of the beast's jaw closing on me. I could feel it slowly damaging the hydraulics of the suit. So I managed to start the drill and ram it right up its upper jaw. It sprang around like it's flinging its head around in pain. And it was also made me want to vomit. And it threw me off, slammed me into a wall. The little girl came at me as the mosasaur ran off, but started to circle back slowly. Oh, fuck me, that hurt. I lost my drill. Shit. As the drill was lodged in its mouth, the mosasaurus came charging again. I was done for. The little girl squeezed my arm again. She wanted me to live. But what could I do against a beast like this? Suddenly I started to feel funny. I started to feel full of energy. I got back on my feet with instance. As I started seeing my hands or armor glow blue, I started to feel like all hair on my body standing up. Static electricity. But I didn't care again. As the beast headbutted me head on, I grabbed her by its snout. I didn't let go. And all of a sudden, a bolt of electricity shot from my body, from my hands. And it was just, I was somehow shocking it with lots of voltage. And I was just freaking out, but I didn't care. I just kept doing what was causing it. I kept shocking it on its nose, which fucked with its neurosensory. Like all sharks, it affected its neuroptics, or basically, it was getting shocked so many times. And next you know, he flung me off again, and it swam off into the depths. It did not emerge. Fuck my head. It's gone. I stare at my hands and see the electricity slowly disappear from him. What the actual fuck? How did I do that? What the fuck? I was freaking out. I shot electricity. Sat there for an hour trying to collect my mind of what the fuck just happened. I shot electricity from my suit. How? Did he damage it? I look at my suit and there's no exposed electricity. How? But out of nowhere, the little gold tentacles wrapped around my head and she was just sobbing, hugging the shit out of me. She was afraid, but she felt happy at the same time that I did not die. I cuddled the child and started to wonder, where am I? I then got up and decided to take the girl with me. She kind of looked a lot like my daughter. Blue eyes, always hugging me when I am sick. She was always concerned for me. She never left my side. And that day, I decided to keep her. I decided to venture to find my way back to the surface. I can't stay down there forever. Who knows? I'm already hungry. How long have I been down here? All I know is I need to get back. I need to get back to the surface. And the only way to do that is find my way up. So I begin to walk. And over time, I bonded with the little girl. She was so happy, but I didn't know what to name her. I felt happy. I never felt this way since Lisa died. Since my first child died. I started to wonder, will my life be the same again? How long has passed? But all I care about right now is getting to the surface and protecting my new daughter. I decided to keep her. I don't care what she is. She's a lot like my daughter, the one that died. And I swore that the day I will protect her. Would she even be able to breathe outside of water? God, the day's been stressful. I really need to sleep, or at least find air. I don't know how much is in the tank, but all I can say is, whoever finds this recording, I'm either dead, or you're just extremely unfortunate to end down here, where the life is crueler than the surface. This has been Roosevelt Flutters, signing off.